Hello, Namaskar, good evening. Welcome to today's session of Window to the World, Career Awareness program by Indus World School. I'm delighted to have with us Mr. Sandeep Bapna, who is the Managing Director of Khan Academy and has an illustrious career. Mr. Bapna, before the Khan Academy, had founded a company called Ngrammy, which is a community of online learners. And before that, he was with the International Finance Corporation, a part of World Bank Group, where he was a part of a team where he led investments of over the $800 million. And prior to that, Mr. Sandeep went to IIT BHU and IIM Calcutta, and subsequently worked with the International Finance Corporation for a good number of years based in Washington, D.C. Last 2 years, Sandeep has been working at Khan Academy, which is at the cutting edge of providing great learning opportunities for students, not just in the US but also across the globe. Khan Academy, as many of you will already know, is a leading initiative by Mr. Salman Khan and has been appreciated by various people and organizations across the globe. Khan Academy has touched over 40 million, which is 4 crores learners across the globe, many of them from India also, and about 2 million teachers are actively involved in Khan Academy. So I thank Mr. Sandeep to join us for today's session, and we over the next 1 hour or so we are going to talk about certain specific steps and actions that as students we really need to take in terms of getting ready for the future of work. So all of you will have already in your screen set of some sort of a dialog box at the bottom, and I request you to feel free to ask, type in your questions, send to us, and I'll relay your questions to Mr. Sandeep to address them towards the end of the session. Just remember, when you write the questions, also write your name and location with it. So thanks, Sandeep. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Vijay.
Let me just start with a quote from a leading management thinker, Peter Drucker, who once said, "Since we live in an age of innovation, a practical education must prepare a man for work that does not yet exist and cannot be yet clearly defined." So that basically means that there's so much of volatility, uncertainty, ambiguity in current environment, the way jobs are changing, the way careers are changing. We really need to have some sort of sense of how the current students of the current generation should learn, be prepared for the future, which is there, slightly unknown, slightly known for us. So the question to you, Sandeep, is about the future of work. So what, according to you, is likely to be the future of work, let's say from 10 years to 30 to 40 years kind of perspective, given the kind of developments happening in artificial intelligence, automation, technology changing the way people work, the way people commute, in terms of society is evolving. So what is your view on the change of the work in the future, let's say 10 to 40 years from now?
Thank you. First of all, let me thank you, Vijay, for bringing me here, and thank you everyone who's watching it at this time. It's a Wednesday, it's like dinner time, so thank you once again. So I think this is a very fascinating topic, and I'm glad that we are talking about it because it's very pertinent to, especially to students who are preparing for this future. They would be working for these 20 to 30, 40 years in the future. So I think, let me state it this way, there's both good news and bad news.
Okay.
So let me begin with the bad news side of it. Recently, McKinsey, which is a consulting organization, they did a very 2-year research on over 2,000 jobs, and they figured out that in this time frame that we are talking about, 20 to 30 years, about half of the paid jobs and activities that exist today would be automated, would be gone.
That's a big number.
That's a very big number.
Right.
And the other thing which we have to be a little bit cognizant of is there will be different impacts on different countries. India would be one of the countries which is a little bit more vulnerable to it, because we still have a lot of manufacturing jobs, we have jobs in the agriculture sector, but that's the bad news side of it. Let me talk about the good news side of it. So I think on the good news, first of all, this change will happen over a long period of time, which would give us the flexibility to adapt to it. Secondly, it's really not a doomsday scenario. I mean, when they did this research, what they found out was, or what they concluded was that perhaps 5% of jobs would be entirely gone.
Okay.
But for the remaining 95% of jobs, really what's going to happen in the future is that there'll be an increasing amounts of or levels of automation that would come in. And you mentioned artificial intelligence, machine learning. All of these things would increase the levels of automation in these jobs. But it's not that those jobs would disappear. And I think I think that's kind of that's really if you project out, that's really what's going on. And I think it is really important for us to think about how can we, what do we do now to adapt to that future.
Okay, so that's a little bit comforting, Sandeep. In terms of the skills and competencies required by students of the current time to be ready for little bit uncertain scenario, but yet the future of work, what are, according to you, would be some of the critical skills and competencies that students need to pick up, maybe now or maybe over the next few years, to not just become a good citizen, but also a successful professional or entrepreneur, as the case may be?
That's a great question, and I would think about it from a few different perspectives. One is in terms of what is it that we are acquiring as knowledge and as skills, which is what you're asking. So I think the focus would need to, for the students who are studying right now, the focus would need to move beyond just academic knowledge into these higher order skills that everybody is talking about, for example, complex problem solving, working with others, creativity. Some of those things, may seem a little bit ambiguous, but I think it can be brought into when you learn, through project work, through, doing team-based work. Then, what I would also talk about and recommend is that there are also a core set of hard skills that one can focus on. And talking about those, giving you to give you some examples of it. One is coding. I feel that is something which almost everyone should have somewhat of an exposure to. It is something that would come handy in many ways. Coding is one example. Entrepreneurship is another one, because the other thing that you are seeing is another theme of the future of work would be that careers may disappear, because you would be doing a lot of smaller gigs. It's called the gig economy. You have the Ubers and the Airbnbs who are already bringing it. And so that would require a lot of entrepreneurial aptitude and talent also. So those would be a couple of things I would call out. And lastly, I think we'll all have to be, whether we like it or not, we'll have to be just like lifelong learners. There will never be an end to, I've done this, I've finished my school, I've finished my college, and that's all I'm going to do. You'll have to keep learning.
Okay, that's interesting. Good you mentioned about coding. So, Sandeep, coding, the common perception about coding is that one really needs to be a little bit of technical or techie type of a person, or a little bit nerdy with large spectacles. And coding is for people who just don't want to talk to others, just be with their computer. But you mentioned it being like a hard skill, which is like a critical skill. So how do you see this sort of coding to be adopted by, let's say, a wide number of students in the population?
Great, yeah. No, absolutely. I think to just like dispel the notion, coding is not just about nerds with large spectacles doing it. There are actually very fun ways to learn coding. And coding teaches you, not only it gives you some practical skills that you can use in many ways, it also helps you learn logic. It helps you, learn how to break a problem in a structured manner. And there's some really fun ways. For example, Khan Academy, where I work, we have some computer programming stuff available, which could be used by kids. MIT has software.
So what age do you think a child can really start coding on his or her own?
So I think there are programs now which cater to 5-year-olds and plus.
That's like really.
Yeah. And in the beginning it could. Yeah, and in the beginning it could just be like games where you're just like moving blocks, for example. But then there is a programming logic that's built into it, which leads to some goals. And then as you learn that, I mean, then over a period of time, it could get more, more into programming languages itself.
But do you think for people who are not so much inclined towards, let's say, science or mathematics, even there, for them, coding is something that they can probably pick up as a skill?
I would be biased maybe, but I would say yes. Even if you are doing something else, for whether it's for your research purposes, you need to scour the internet, work on databases. You may be, you may want to just like, you may want to do something which is design related, but you want a small website to be created. Now there are like lots of tools, and you can do that very easily. So you should not feel handicapped. And this, I almost believe that this is a skill you have to have at least exposure to not feel that this is something totally out of your reach. You may not be an expert coder, but you should understand what goes behind it.
Yeah, and the other two things that you mentioned were about entrepreneurship and lifelong learning.
Yeah.
So could you a little bit elaborate on these two aspects, on particularly from the point of view of how to develop a sense of entrepreneurship or ability to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean it can start really small. I mean you have an idea. Let's say you have a very small idea, but how do you take that idea and turn it into reality? I mean whether it's like I'm just trying to remember my own school days. Do you have fates in your school?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect, yeah. So fate is like an example, right? I mean, you may put up a stall, but then in order to do maximum business, you may get like, different kinds of products, you may do some marketing around it, and then you have to finally sell those products to so I mean, it could be something as simple as that.
Right.
But the core things, what I've learned from a little bit of an exposure to this on the entrepreneurship side is that ideas are great, but execution is where it all matters. And so, but don't feel like execution is this like big mountain that you have to climb. I keep talking about it to a lot of people that if you have an idea, figure out how you can validate whether that idea is actually good. And you could use a Facebook poll, for example, with just your friends and see if that idea sticks or not. And then let's say it does, you can think of what is the minimum prototype I can build, or or at least give a sense of what the product would be or a service. And so there are lots of tiny steps you can take, and there are again a bunch of resources that are available, which actually brings me to this whole lifelong learning thing. And I'll take a minute to detour. So my own experience. So I went to school. Majority of my schooling happened in Bareilly in UP, and then I went to IIT BHU, and then I did my MBA, and then I moved to finance. And to be honest, I mean, all the school and the college education had not really prepared me in that depth for the finance role that I did at the World Bank. But I just I just hunkered down, learned that skill, and got good at it, and did that for about 10 years. And then I realized, well, this is great, but I've done enough of it, and I want to do something else. And that's when I ventured into creating a consumer product, which is basically was an iPhone app to connect lifelong learners, actually. And that required me to forget about everything that I learned about finance and learn about how to create a product, how to build a team, how do you market a product to others, and all of those skills, I had to acquire. And then I did that for a few years and left that, and now I'm with Khan Academy, which has a different, which require a different set of skills. that you need to acquire. By the way, one of the things that I am doing right now is doing a deep learning course on Coursera. Okay. Because I feel like, again, if I'm talking about the future of work and, automation, all of that, I need to get some level of...
At this stage, you sort of constantly have to learn and upgrade yourself.
Absolutely. So I think just using that example, I think the point that I wanted to make was that you're not likely to have, less chances you will have very long careers in one place. You would be changing, if not companies itself, you would definitely be changing your job profiles, which would require you to keep learning new skills. And I think that's where you folks are really fortunate. I'm really envious of you. The whole world's education and knowledge is literally at your fingertips. Right. With what's happening with massive online open courses, platforms like Coursera, Udacity, where some of the top universities in US and other countries are putting their content on those platforms, to places like Khan Academy, where you can learn many subjects. I mean, we're in a really interesting era where if you want to learn something, that's available. A lot of times it's free. A lot of times you may have to pay for it, but it's not a huge amount. So I think as I said, I'm really envious of you who are right now students.
That's pretty good. About Khan Academy, the tagline says, or your tagline says, that the only thing you need to learn
is you can learn anything.
Anything.
Yes.
The only thing you can learn, you need to know about learning, is that you can learn anything, which is very, very encouraging and motivating. The current underground scenario, if you look at several schools in India, is that students tend to sort of whether it is through their self-discovery or through feedback from teachers, parents, peer group, they tend to sort of get put in a box saying that he's or she's a topper type of a student, or this is a medium student, this is a slow learner, those kind of things. And then they, for example, if someone is slotted in saying that in this person's English is not good, for example, it becomes hard for a student to sort of get to a level which is of excellence.
Yes.
Of course, 60% can become 70 can become 80, and so on. But for someone to become excellence, and I think this entire concept of Khan Academy on mastery of skills. So you promote not just to get passing marks or meritorious marks, but to become master of certain skills.
Yeah.
So in terms of practical aspect, how do you suggest students can take advantage of Khan Academy or equivalent initiatives to master their skills irrespective of their starting point? Because sometimes a student may be average, sometimes may be already at a higher level or a very low level, but everybody has this desire to master certain skills. Yeah. So if you could throw some light on mastery of skills in different aspects for different type of students.
Yeah. No, I think great question. So first of all, let me say, do not listen to anyone who says you cannot do this. Tumse na ho paega, or equivalent of that. We have at Khan Academy, we get testimonials almost on a daily, weekly basis of students telling us that they were told they were not good in math or they were not good in some other subject, and they believed it. And then due to some chance or whatever, they came on Khan Academy, liked the way it was taught on Khan Academy, and they became masters. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Like I literally, we see testimonials across the world from India. There was one which we were talking about a few weeks ago, where this student wrote to us and said, "I used to hate chemistry until I found chemistry videos on Khan Academy, and to your utter surprise," so he was writing to us and he said, "To your utter surprise, I got an A+ in that subject." So I think that's the first thing in which, to your point, that you can learn anything. What I would add really is that what would be your differentiating factor going, in the future? It would be that whatever you do, you bring this mastery mindset to it. and which is something what Khan Academy focuses on very heavily. I'll talk a little bit about it. Whatever you do, whether it's learning a subject, it could be math, it could be science, it could be language, it could be economics, music, it could be hobbies that you do. Bring try not take shortcuts, because those things are going to be will not work in the long run. Take your time. I mean, I made those mistakes, so I can talk about it. But get to that mastery level. And to give you a specific example on Khan Academy, how this works on the platform is that if you're learning math, as you do exercises on Khan Academy based on what you're answering, you could take some quizzes and unit tests on it. Khan Academy platform tells you, hey, these are some skills that you need to practice. You still need to practice. You're struggling, and these are some videos you could watch. And the goal for us really is that is to get everyone to that mastery level. Yeah.
Thanks. And in terms of certain key challenges, because this looks very obvious, the power of internet, the power of content, education technology platforms and initiatives have experience of wide variety of students. So all that is there. However, in terms of adoption, there seems to be some bit of a challenge. It could be social, psychological, cultural, or maybe a combination. So, what's your view on what are the key challenges, and how does one overcome these challenges or obstacles to be able to really, as you said, master certain skills, not just get 80, 90 or 100 out of 100, but master the skills?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. We are, again, living in a great period where we have devices, we have connectivity with, internet is coming up quite rapidly. If I were to think of, so when all of, your question is, when all of it is there, why is there still a slower takeoff in all of this? I think one is just a matter of time. I think things are, people are adopting it at a very rapid rate. I'll give you, on this point, I'll just give you one quick number to keep it in perspective. Is if you look at United States, we did a very broad survey recently. Only 50% of students actually use an online resource in the US. I think
it's very well connected.
Very well connected. It's all been there. There have been a lot of products. I think in India that number is maybe it's in the 5 to 10% range. So we have a long way to go. But I think we're also we're growing very fast. I think in terms of, so if I were the other things that you pointed out, what could be the other factors? Some of the things that we hear is parents have a genuine concern that if our kids are sitting in front of a computer or and are on internet, they could be doing anything. I think that's a very valid concern. I have 2 kids, and I want to know what they're doing. I think one thing that I would just mention here is that now you have platforms, including Khan Academy, where you as a parent can link your child's account, and you could actually see what they did, how much time they spent on using Khan Academy, or or whatever resource they're using, how they did. So you have a little bit more control. But I think it's going to be, and you have to build. I think the other thing is you will have to build that trust between yourself and your kids. You have to you have to trust them that they would do the right thing. There would be sometimes that doesn't happen. You have a chat with them. I don't think it'll be about just controlling them and not letting them to use the devices. So I think that's kind of maybe one constraining factor. From a student's perspective, that's probably the other factor. I mean, you go to a school, you have a teacher who tells you exactly what you need to do. Maybe you go to a tuition after school, and again, everything is told and given to you. What if, when you go to an online platform, there's so much there. I mean, how do you navigate that? Could be one potential issue. But I think there, increasingly, what I'm seeing at least is the newer edtech products are built in a very modular way. You could find, so for example, if you're using Khan Academy, and let's say you're a class 8 student, whatever chapter you studied that week, you can find quickly on Khan Academy all the videos and exercises related to that chapter. So I think that navigational problem would be probably would get easier. Besides, I mean, actually, this may not even be an issue because all you folks are using a lot of technology, and may be able to navigate this really well. But I think that's kind of a little bit of what could be still hindering, yeah.
So if you look at the teaching and learning process, of course, the student is at the center. However, the certain critical components, and people like us, one is the entire mentor or teaching community. The other is parents themselves.
Yeah.
And we believe that parents and immediate family and teachers, both these entities play a big role in learning. So, given this potential of education technology and students being able to master skills in whatever the field of choice, what do you see as role of parents in terms of do's and don'ts, and in terms of teaching community in terms of do's and don'ts to ensure mastery in skills?
Yeah, at Khan Academy, we definitely believe that teachers and by extension parents are, central to whatever learning happens. They are the agents of change.
So if you were to give advice to parents, let's say, what is it that they should not be doing, or what is it that they must be doing? Maybe just one or two.
Cool. Yeah, I think first of all, to the earlier point, do not tell your kids that you're good at this, you're not good at this, because over time we've seen that really does not hold true. Anybody can learn. I think the second thing I would say is build trust with your kids. That would be really, really crucial, because that would really enable them to go and explore the resources that are out there, and over a period of time, you could find that balance. And three, really, beyond academics, let them, when I talked about these higher order skills, not all of them would come from just learning in a school environment or for a test. A lot of those things would come from the extracurricular activities that your kids are doing. So really encourage them that, because that's kind of those things would become more and more critical as we go forward.
Okay. And in terms of this immediate family or peer group, do you think some sort of joint collaborative work, like group of students working together, or do you see this type of initiative of mastery of skills just being done on one-on-one basis? So I as an individual, I just keep excelling as an individual, or are there possibilities of some sort of collaborative learning and project work-based learning?
Yeah, that's a great question. On one hand, you can almost go back into India's educational history, when you had these, your school was not divided by grades. People or kids of similar ages were grouped together and they worked together. So the reason I'm borrowing from that analogy is that when you learn something, really you master it when you actually teach it to someone, or you work with someone else and you jointly solve that. So group-based activities are beneficial both for you if you already know the concept to get that even more deeply, and for those who are for that skill or for that concept struggling to get that feedback or to get that help from their peers. Because oftentimes you learn a lot better with your friends rather than someone sitting down at you and asking you to finish stuff.
Yeah, so this in terms of ability to teach, this also I have observed in a large variety of a large range of cases. If as you said, if I'm really very good at my subject, I can be a very good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And in certain cases, students becoming teachers to younger students makes a lot of difference. So is there the possibility of using technology to sort of, for a student, let's say a student of grade 8, hypothetical example, may want to teach student of or help students of grade 7 or 6 in certain subjects. So that helps in two ways. One is junior students, they sort of learn faster, and as you said, similar age group, chances of learning effectively are higher. And the second is the concepts of the senior student get more and more strengthened. So is there some sort of possibility or opportunity using technology for students to not just remain students while they are in school, but also become teachers and therefore masters of their own subjects in their own way?
Yeah. No, I think it can definitely be used. Have I seen a product which does that right now? I don't recall.
Yeah, so there may be an opportunity for
there's probably exactly.
So more on peer learning type concept.
Yeah.
And also the teaching to immediately junior class or maybe 1 year or 2 years younger students.
Absolutely, yeah. Peer-to-peer learning. I mean, there is a lot of if you Google it, you will find a lot of thinking that has gone in. But so far, haven't seen a product. But this can happen within your class because you would have. What's really interesting is that you would have sometimes somebody or a small group of students struggling with a certain concept, and if you actually get them past that, they can start zipping through the rest of the content. So you can really unblock them. So this peer-to-peer opportunity can arise even within a classroom and within your own grade. In fact, I just remembered, I went to IIM Calcutta, and I kind of remember that all the statistics that I learned actually from one of the fellow students who would hold this giant, tuition, just before exams, he would come out and talk to all of us and tell us and teach us, and so that was a great way to learn.
Okay, so that brings us to some of the trends in this sector. So India naturally is fairly developed and advanced in its own way when it comes to using technology. And as earlier, just before the session, you were mentioning that the mobile internet data consumed by India is now the highest in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. So that way, the internet data consumption is fairly steep and pretty good. However, there are many things that we can learn from certain countries outside of maybe Asia or even within Asia, in terms of education, excellence in education. So if you could share some of the trends or examples or some things that you think are being followed in certain other geographies or countries, which we as students or teachers or as schools can learn from and incorporate in our day-to-day teaching and learning process, that will be of help. Yeah,
Vijay, you're an expert here, so I should speak cautiously here. But I think first of all, I would say that all the activity that's happening in with availability of education through this education technology, through technology, I think we living in India would benefit probably the most, because the world has suddenly become a level playing field. You could be, I could not have imagined when I was studying in Bareilly that I would have access to the best professors in the world. Now you can be anywhere and you could get that access. So I think we would really be, we would take more of the share of the advantages that are coming with it. And to that mobile question that you had, the point that you made, this is remarkable, and this is I'm quoting Mr. Ambani here.
Yeah.
So he said in March or April of this year, he said a year ago, India ranked 150th in the world as far as mobile data consumption is concerned. Now we are the first. We consume more mobile data than anyone else, including United States and other Western countries. So I think we're really taking advantage of it. We would be leapfrogging. We have a potential to at least leapfrog, like what we did, when we skipped all the landlines and everybody had a mobile, and everybody has a mobile phone now. But there are things that we could learn, and I would just again defer to you. But a couple of things that come to my mind. One is, I believe that there is students in some of these Western countries, and I'm not talking about Asia specifically, but in Western countries, take more charge of their learning. So they're not reliant just on, okay, I was told this to do and I've done it and that's all. They're more aware of and they take action on what they need to learn, whether they need to spend enough time on homework, or if there are some areas that they are weak in, spending more time on it. So I think that's something which we as parents can also talk about that with our kids, and kids can take that. I think the second point I would make is that as far as teachers are concerned, really, all of this technology, what it is enabling us to do is to really shift the time that we spend in a classroom today on the activities that we do. We can potentially use technology to do some of that job. You can get homeworks assigned on a platform, automatically graded and all of that, and instead spend time on giving feedback to students or interacting with students one-on-one, looking at who needs, who has gaps where, and helping them. I think so. Those are two big things that can dramatically change, in some ways, the outcomes we can get.
Right. In terms of the interaction with technologies, there are two ways of looking at it. One is consumption of technology. So, for example, I can sit on Facebook and spend 24 hours a day. It's also using technology in some ways, right? And the other way is creating something using technology, like the example that you mentioned about coding and creating project work or creating knowledge or improving your own understanding of concepts and so on. So the dichotomy that I see is in many cases people or students are unable to differentiate between consumption only and creation using technology. So in terms of technology platform, do you think there is enough opportunity for people to create? Coding is one example that you mentioned. Other than that, create things or create value in whatever way that one can do. Because all said and done, it is a virtual world. It's not the real world, right? It's not like sitting here. So, in terms of giving opportunity for students to create, beyond, let's say, coding, do you think there are any other areas or possibilities?
Absolutely. No, I can think of several examples, and you're right. It's not just about passive consumption, but also technology should allow you to create things more easily. So let's look at design, for example. If you have interest in design, plenty of tools available now that you can use, courses available that you can learn from. That can allow you to, whether you're designing a flyer for your class, class outing, or you're designing something that you, some sort of a packaging for thing that you want to sell. So you could do all of that. Right? So that's one clear example of something you could do. And there are things like 3D printing and stuff which are not very far away. By the way, I think. One of my friends runs a company which has an app which allows you to create 3D objects, and then you send it, you upload that file, someone centrally prints that on a 3D printer, and it comes back to you.
It's like manufacturing.
It's manufacturing, exactly. Yeah. So then this is, this is really not in the realm of science fiction. This is happening already. There are 3D printing, labs.
So you're saying someone creates a design, uploads it, and then an object comes out through 3D.
Yeah, so the companies, and I don't remember any, I don't remember specific names, but we can easily find out. You design, upload, and then that company basically prints it for you. So you don't even have to. All you have is a 3D design software, which could just be a simple app. Okay. So it's not anything complicated. And then you upload it, and then they print it out for you, and then you can, as many copies as you want, you can get that. So I think those are
three-dimensional project. So we have a few questions coming up.
Sure.
But before we get to questions, Sandeep, I have one last one about possibilities of building career in education technology. So education technology is a relatively new field.
Yeah.
It is probably 15-20 years old, and there are many companies. We've seen very many successful companies in the Western world, also a few in India. So for the students who may wish to remain in the field of education, try to make a difference, particularly for our country where providing good quality education to large number of people is really very critical for us to come out of our current level of economy and productivity and so on. So if one if a student wants to get into education technology industry, so to say, broadly, either as a professional or as an entrepreneur, what are the various possibilities that one can think of, and what is the right age to start working towards it?
That's interesting. So one, there are various ways, and if I can, just think of some of the people that any edtech company or some skills that any edtech company would look for. You include people who can create content, people who can, and by creating content I mean both videos, exercises. You would need people who are great at graphic design. There are a lot of companies which use a lot of visuals in creating it. You need software programmers who would actually create that platform for you. You would need designers who would do the UI UX.
Plenty of different types of.
There are plenty of different. Exactly, yeah. So I would say choose something. I think there are various ways in which you could get into it. I talked about my own trajectory into it, which was very non-traditional, doing engineering, then finance, entrepreneurship, and then finally into it. So there are various ways to get into it. Find something that you really like, and again, going back to our earlier theme.
And what's the right age to sort of start planning about once? Is it in terms of class, is it like class 5, 6, 8, 10? What do you think would be the right age for someone to consider whether I should look at education technology as a field of expertise?
Yeah, you can look at any age. I think we all know kids. Even at a very young age, they have some ideas of what they want to be, and then it keeps changing. So the important part is it keeps changing. So you could have don't get fixated on this is the only thing I would do. I think the key thing is think of the skills that you like to build and spend time in honing that and building that. You could use it in many different ways. So
I'm just reminded of this student from Australia who arrived to India 2-3 days ago to attend this Global Entrepreneur Summit held in Hyderabad yesterday or the day before, and he met our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's in grade 7, 13-year-old child. He was the youngest entrepreneur in the summit, and he got some 5 or 6 commercially viable applications, mobile applications in the marketplace. People are using his application. He's just all of 13 years old.
Wow! You can do it. You can learn anything. You can do anything. Yes, yeah.
Okay, so this, I've discussed some of the things that I wanted to check. Let me just quickly ask the questions that the audience has. Not in any particular order, but there's one question which says that how can students of Indus World School contribute in the mission of Khan Academy from Indore?
That's a great question. I will need to think about it a little bit. But and we would love to know more. I would leave my email address also with Vijay. And so if you have some ideas, we would love to learn more. Start using it. Tell us what works. We are building some content in other languages too. If I think at some point at some point in time we do want to build a small student advisory council also. Very few students who would give us feedback on the content that we are building. Maybe that could be one way in which some students can contribute. So I would leave my contact details, and if you have more ideas, I think we can learn more from that.
Thank you. Another very interesting from Gurgaon is how can we bring Mr. Salman Khan at Indus World School, Gurgaon? Is there a possibility of getting Mr. Salman Khan to our school or maybe to this studio for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would keep that in mind when Sal, as we call him, when he visits us India next time. We will figure out some ways in which there could be some interaction with students. Yeah.
Thank you. There's another interesting one which is focused on teachers, really, mentors. It says we talked about how students can become future ready. However, how can teachers upskill themselves to give better workforce to the world? That's from Ludhiana.
Yeah, I think a fantastic question. I think we are, as I was mentioning, we're all asking ourselves that how do we keep ourselves abreast with the changes? I mean, we all have to do it in our professions. I would say, first of all, technology itself has become much easier now. I think if I were to go back 10 years, 15 years, and my experience with technology, a lot of time it was frustrating, it was frightening, it was like, okay, I don't understand it, it's complex. But those things have, dramatically changed. So embrace it would be the first thing I would say. And then the point that I made earlier was that I think the biggest thing, and this, and you know it much better, Vijay knows it much better, but I feel one area where we could do, where teachers could do a lot is look at what are the activities they are spending their time on in a class, and how can they shift that so that they can provide more personalized attention to the students who need that. I think that would make a huge difference. I mean, literally, you would be able to impact a very large number of students in your class to start performing better and become future ready.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is analyze the tasks done in
absolutely, yes,
and then try to sort of optimize and focus on personalized learning more and more as much as
possible. Yes.
Next question is about tell us what are the next projects which Salman Khan is working on, if you want to share really.
What are the next projects? I mean, okay, Salman Khan is there's one in Bollywood and there's one in California. So I'm talking about the one in California. See, for us, really, a few things that we are thinking of is one, how do we provide a very deep learning experience to anyone? So you could be in a school and you may want to learn a new subject or a subject that's not being taught in school, computer programming, for example. You may or may not have it. We want to be able to provide that experience to you, so even if you're in school. And equally important, there are a lot of children, especially in India, still out of school. And our vision is that the product is able to provide a world-class free education to that person. I mean, you don't, you would have devices, you would have connectivity, or you would be able to go somewhere where you would have connectivity. But can we build content? Can we build a product in a way that someone can entirely self-learn on Khan Academy? So I think those are a couple of things we're thinking of, which also leads into just thinking about this whole credentialing bit of it. Could we create alternative pathways that kids can explore on our platform? Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is from Raipur. It says in the new world of work, collaboration will become more important than before. Is it possible on Khan Academy platform? I think you addressed it a little bit earlier, but maybe you can just share about collaboration a bit.
Yeah, I think on the collaboration bit, I mean, this is something which we are thinking. We haven't done it. It's definitely, in amongst the top things that we are thinking of as we go in the future. Yeah.
Another one is from Gurgaon, and this is a bit of a serious question. It says knowledge is integrated. Is Khan Academy working on integrating multiple subjects, for example, 2 subjects like math and science, to make better meaning of knowledge for the next generation workforce?
Yes, no, I think that's a great question, and the other point I was making about was getting, as we build content, we're adults building content. I think we need a lot of feedback from students as well. We do, a lot of when we create either math or science content, or any of the other subjects, we do try to bring really real-world concepts into it in helping you understand. But maybe I think what you're referring to is a lot deeper integration between subjects. Yeah, I think the best way would be to look at some content and get some feedback on, well, here's how this can be done differently, and you can really suggest that to us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is about self-learning, and this is also a bit of a serious question. Self-learning is a new skill needed in students. It needs a lot of discipline without a mentor alongside.
Mm-hmm.
How can mentors or teachers enable development of this new skill? This is from Indore again.
Yeah, you folks are asking amazing questions. I think this is probably, I would say this is the really important thing that we need to do, and all of us need to do, to inculcate this love for learning, and then and this ability to learn on your own. It does require discipline. I agree with you, and that's where parents and mentors can play a role. But then what's really interesting is that today you have so many choices, which was not the case before. So self-learning has become slightly easier because of that. So if you don't like a particular source, if you don't like to learn something somewhere, you would find content or you would find resources elsewhere which would interest you and which would do it in an engaging way. So I think to just summarize it, discipline is a part of it, definitely, and I think that's where parents and mentors can play a role. Right. But also there is a lot of different ways in which things are getting taught, and you can pick what suits you most, and that would help you do that with your own self-motivation to do it.
Okay. Thanks for this. Next one is a bit of a long question from Ludhiana. I'll just read it out for you. Our students are technology natives and teachers are technology immigrants. So this talks about the digital divide between two generations, really. This gap hinders use of technology in schools despite availability of all possible resources like interactive whiteboards, Wi-Fi, etc. Could you suggest ways to bring about a positive change in the perspective of educators and parents towards use of ICT in education?
Yes, absolutely. I think there is a lot to be done, but I would, somewhat disagree with, this. I think you got the analogy right of the natives and the immigrants. But I'll give you a concrete example. We're doing some work in Rajasthan schools, and these are schools not in cities. They are in more rural areas. We have, and I'll name a specific person, teacher here. This is a 52-year-old teacher. His name is, I think, Chote Lal. Never used technology before. Khan Academy got introduced into his school 3 months ago. He has totally turned around and has become an evangelizer. And again, I made a point earlier there that technology itself is becoming much simpler. I mean, teachers are on WhatsApp, Facebook. They are using these tools. A lot of these, products that are out there on the edtech side are becoming as simple as that to use. Yeah.
Okay. The next one is about, again from Ludhiana. It says technology is a wonderful tool for personalized learning. However, it neither demotivates nor motivates a learner to learn. So I think this is a little bit about the self-discipline aspect. What is a probable solution to this no impact factor on effective domain or the EQ? So basically, what the person asking the question wants to ask is, technology per se is democratic. If you are a motivated student,
it's agnostic to.
It's agnostic, right? If you are a motivated student, you keep learning, and whether technology is not there, and let's say I'm not a motivated student for whatever reason. Can there be a play by technology or is there a play by technology to sort of motivate students, saying that trying to help students who are maybe a little bit less motivated, or even helping motivated students move faster than the others? Is that how technology can technology work there, or does it work?
Yeah, I think the answer would be, I mean, technology has limits. And you're absolutely right. I mean, that it is agnostic to who it is being provided to.
I think that's where the role of mentor or teacher comes in.
Yeah.
In terms of the ability to understand the aspiration, the motivation, the potential of students, and using technology. And as you said, technology at best is, of course, the variety of innovation, but it is an enabler for learning. It is not a substitute for learning.
It is absolutely, yeah.
So that's the thing. And the other question, I don't know where it is from. It says by one Mr. Tarun. It says, "Hi Sandeep, do we need special devices available in the market for coding to be learned?"
Special devices? No. If you
not
have,
at all, right?
not at all. Yeah.
You can probably any standard Windows or Android based.
Yeah, anything which runs a browser. So I mean, I'll give you a simple example. Maybe you've already seen it, but on Khan Academy, you can just go to the site and you can find the computer programming section and get started. A lot of the computer programming resources are simply available on the web, so you don't need any specific unless you're like a really high-end coder and you're asking a different question, which I don't know the answer to. Yeah.
Okay, so the short answer is that you don't need any special device. Anyone can code.
Right. Yeah.
And as the tagline says, the only thing you need to know about learning is you can learn anything. So the next one is about it's a little bit of a tricky question. How does a parent balance between screen time for the kid and various different screen sizes? I think it's extremely relevant question. Maybe I'll have my views.
Yes, please.
Share, my views on this. So screen time basically is the problem with this entire screen time terminology or approach is that of the parent and not of the student or the child. So the parent really needs to know what do you mean by screen time, and people use screen time because they don't know what's going on during that time. So long as, and it also links with the point that Sandeep you mentioned about building trust between the parent and the child, so long as parent is aware of what is going on, screen time actually can be a wonderful thing. However, unfortunately, in many cases, in most cases, what happens is parents have little or no idea of what's going on in the mobile phone or a laptop and so on, any device, and therefore this entire thing of putting control saying that no screen time or screen time. So screen time is looked at a wasteful activity rather than a productive activity, and I think that's where the change in mindset is needed. Which is also two ways, and once there is a bit of transparency and trust between parents, as someone said, digital immigrants and digital natives, then this challenge of screen time will go away. Then one will not use screen time, because screen time is also good and bad. So one really needs to know what is it that it is being used for.
Yeah.
So that's my take. I think we have little time. Now, maybe we'll just take 2 or 3 questions.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Wind up. How should schools redesign themselves to leverage technology better? It seems that schools are losing significance in some part of the population. I think the person asking question wants to know, is there a need for schools to redesign something using technology, or the current technology solutions can sort of superimpose on the existing school structure?
Yeah, I mean, you're at the forefront of it, so.
I mean, my view is that it's not really black and white. It's like little. Technology is here to stay. There's a little bit of change that is needed by the students and by a little bit of change by the schools, a little bit of change by technology also, because as rightly pointed out, technology also needs to sort of take care of the self-discipline and motivation-related factors, which hopefully will evolve with this artificial intelligence coming in, and so much development happening. For example, now with artificial intelligence, there are newspaper articles being written already. So in if you read Financial Times or New York Times, there are a certain number of articles which are written by robots. I mean, it is unthinkable type of thing, and those articles not just have facts and data, but they also have emotions. Like we would write an article and you have emotions on certain topics and issues, and similarly, it's so technology is evolving, and hopefully, this education technology will also evolve to a stage where even perhaps the platform will know that I am not feeling all right, and therefore the pace of learning may be a little bit slower for me, or maybe today I'm charged up and excited and I'm moving very fast, so I can probably cover 2 times of what I would cover otherwise. So hopefully technology will catch up to such situation. This is a generic question on a particular industry. What's your view on jobs in banks? Do you think they'll exist after 10 years or so, after our work which could be done by robots? So maybe, I don't know.
I think we could look at that report, and it tells you exactly by which sector, what is the risk in that sector. I think banking is one where there is going to be huge amount of automation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll take the last question here, which says, does Khan Academy have a counseling type of program or something to help children realize their potential and decide their own future? Do you?
No, we don't
so
have.
Maybe this is an idea to Khan Academy to sort of consider and develop. So you've got a few ideas from our students.
Absolutely, and I'm waiting for more.
Teacher community, really.
Yeah.
So this is so I think other questions, whatever questions come later, we will probably collate them and share them with you offline.
Sure.
And your responses we could circulate on email.
Sure.
So in terms of the last one, I've learned a lot. Thanks, Sandeep.
Oh, thank you.
Over. And particularly, I would like to highlight a couple of things which I'm really moved with. And as when you talked about certain students, successful students, and you mentioned that students take charge of their own learning. I think to me that was an eye opener. So many times we keep thinking that please help us, please tell us, show us the way. But when the students take charge, saying that I want to learn, I want to excel, I want to master, I think that's a big learning for me. And then of course the need of self-discipline and self-learning that was highlighted. Three more things. One is this importance of coding and entrepreneurship and execution, which I'm sure many of us would put in practice soon. And the need to master, not just get 100 out of 100, but master a skill or a set of skills. And last but not the least is the need to build trust between parent and child.
Absolutely.
So far as the technology-related interactions are concerned. So thanks very much. Thanks for watching, and thank you, Sandeep, for being with us. On behalf of the students, teachers, and parent community of Indus World School, I thank you for coming to us, and we look forward to having further interactions with you in future.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Vijay, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.